My talk tonight will be in two parts. First, a few words on Hierax and how it came to life as part of a research project. My goal here is to make clear what Hierax is, what it can and cannot do, and why. And then in the second part, I will briefly show Hierax at work and give a little tour of its functionalities. So, Tanya, you invited me to introduce myself. So let me precise that I'm a papyrologist, that is a specialist of papyri bearing text written in ancient Greek and Coptic. I was trained in classics and history, so I'm not at all a computer scientist or an image specialist, and I don't have many technical knowledge. But as a papyrologist, I was confronted with a well-known problem. Since the wide majority of papyri reach out to us via the antiquities market, documents that used to belong to an archive or fragments that originally formed a single manuscript are now scattered in collections across the world. Sometimes these units can be reconstructed thanks to the content of the text, but it is more the exception than the rule. So my question was, could new approaches from computer science help finding similarities among hundreds, if not thousands, of fragments by searching not in the text, but in the images themselves? So I built up a research project called Describes, whose goals are stated in its title. It is to reunite fragments that used to belong together, to identify scribes, that is the same scribe penning several documents, or to characterize scripts, that is gather similar script or handwriting styles that may have been produced by scribes trained at the same school or living in the same city or at the same period. And all this would allow to set the basis of what I call a digital paleography. So I obtained a funding from the Swiss National Science Foundation for 4 years of research. And this allows me to form a team which is made by, besides me, a technical assistant that brings the technical knowledge that I lack, and 3 student assistants that are very valuable for the many time-consuming tasks involved in this project. So I don't have the time to go into details on Describes project today, but I strongly invite interested people to visit the project website at describes.org. So the goal was to apply, is still to apply computational methods to papyri and to analyze and compare the handwritings. We were confronted from the beginning to the question how to differentiate the handwriting, so the ink, from the background, that is the papyrus leaf. Our technical assistant, Dr. Vlad Atanasiu, investigated the question and applied on papyri existing enhancement methods. He also created 2 new ones called VividNet and LSV. I'll get to more details on the methods in the second part of the talk. So by doing so, he was able for any papyrus image to generate a series of enhanced images that made visible various aspects of the ancient artifact. Some would help improving the readability of the text by increasing the contrast between the written text and the background. Other would, for example, be very useful to understand the structure of the papyrus leaf and see better possible accidents like stains of blood or displaced fibers. Of course, for people with a good knowledge of tools like Photoshop, there is nothing new here. However, in the field of papyrology, we had two problems. First, this knowledge is not so frequent. And second, there is often a sort of reluctance to manipulate a papyrus image, as if one would cheat with or alter a historical source. So most of the papyrologists would play a little bit with automatic adjustment of contrast, but without daring going much further. Some of my colleagues use D-Stretch. That is a tool made to enhance petroglyphs, so engraving on rocks, which have very different specificities than papyri. When I saw the various enhancements produced by my colleague, Dr. Athanasiou, I immediately thought of building an equivalent to D-Stretch, but tailored for papyri. That would allow anyone to easily apply these methods, then thus saving some time, but also to be able to clearly state the methods they have used to go against this reluctance, the reluctance that I just mentioned. So the idea is that I can use this enhanced image because I can say how I obtained it and it is reproducible. So we started to test the various methods among the team with different images of papyri. But we thought it would also be nice to have real user cases. I was at that time involved in the 3 national papyrology webinar by OICOR or UCOR, the European campus, that gathers Strasbourg in France, Freiburg in Germany, and Basel in Switzerland. Students from the 3 universities were trained in papyrology with a very concrete objective to produce, at the end, editions of unpublished pieces from the Freiburg collection. The other co-instructor, François Gérardin and Paul Heilborn, kindly accepted that the webinar be an occasion to test how useful the enhanced method can be at the stage of deciphering. So each member of the group received the enhanced images of the papyrus he or she was in charge of editing. In many cases, the decipherment was clearly made easier thanks to the enhanced images. You can see, for example, a sample of this Freiburg papyrus. You have the original on the left and 3 different kinds of enhancement on the right. So specifically, the verso of this papyrus was very difficult to read due mostly to erased or smudged ink and damaged surface. So the enhanced images helped a lot distinguishing the remaining traces of ink and reconstructing the words. During this little experiment, we also got the confirmation of what we suspected. The point was not to provide the unique best image, but to be able to navigate among them and compare how a given passage looked in the various versions. Being also able to see possible accidents, like if the fibers were disturbed, played an important role as well. So the best image depends on what you want to see. And thus, it is important to be able to view and compare the diverse versions efficiently. There came the idea of adding a viewer to our enhancement tool. So the webinar group was very collaborative, and I want to thank them. They gave useful and important feedbacks. The work went well, the editions could be finalized, and I'm happy to say they are currently under review for publication in Archive für Papyrusforschung. Along with the images of their own papyrus, each participant received an identical folder of 9 images and a series of questions on them. Thus, we could also have feedbacks and users' evaluation on the same set of images. The results were included in section 5 called Experiment of a forthcoming article that you can access from Describe's website in the Hierax section or from the website dedicated to Hierax, hierax.ch, under the section Reference. This article is also the place where you will find all the technical details regarding the various enhancement methods that might specially interest the community of archive. So it is now in press and should be released very soon in the next issue of the International Journal of Document Analysis and Recognition. And the preprint is already accessible on archive.org. So this article is highly technical. And so we decided to put the main material on Hierax website, hierax.ch. So it is now time to open the second part of the talk and to look more in detail on the site and on the tool. All right, I'm in time and I'm very proud of myself. So if you go on hierax.ch, you will find not only the files to download the software, but also information on the interface, explanation and illustrations of how it can be used. Download the software and install it is quite straightforward. There are also instructions in the zip file, along with a short manual and samples of papyrus images that are not directly for papyrologists. They don't usually lack this kind of material, but rather for people coming from other fields, like archive group and imaging community. We're happy to provide some papyrus samples. So let me just precise that the installation and the first utilization may take a little time because in order to run, Hierax requires a MATLAB toolbox that is usually not already installed in your computer. I can talk at least for papyrologists, so maybe the archive community is more familiar with MATLAB, but that's not a basic tool for papyrologists. So once it is done the first time, then it will get started quickly the second time and all the time after that. The workflow that I will present in a few minutes is also explained in detail on the website. So if you want to go back step by step, you go at the workflows section of hierax.ch. Okay, so here we are. You have installed Hierax and you open it, and it opens on the Enhance tab, where you will define what kind of image you want to produce. So here you have the default choices already selected. May I insist that you have to choose the parameters before uploading the image. So first, you have the choice between 4 processing methods. Do you see my mouse? So four methods, and the last one, Retinex, has 8 variants. Then you can choose 2 kinds of post-processing. Third, you can choose 2 auxiliaries. So one is rather for infrared images, and the other is if you have strong shadows or background. And here background means the table or the paper that is on which the papyrus is placed to be digitized. And then, so you will find also on the website more information on point 3 that is very specific. Then you can choose the quality and the format, and therefore the size of the output image. And so for non-specialists, it is not easy at the beginning to choose what methods to select, between the two new ones, so vividness and LSV, and more traditional ones like adaptive histogram equalization or Retinix. So besides the technical article that I mentioned, there is a section on hierax.ch with a short description of these methods and some hints. So for example, the adaptive spec will be more for the papyrus texture. LSB might attenuate part of the script. So there are some hints of when to use and not to use this method. But to go more in details, there's another section on the website called Best Methods. And, it can also help to make the choices, but the difficulty is still that it will depend on the material, on the images, and as I said, on what you want to see on these images. Nonetheless, we have made a case study. We were preparing the online catalog of basal papyri, and we had to choose what enhanced images to include in this catalog. As you see, if you click all the boxes, all the parameters, you reach for one image, it was in the previous slide. For one image, you will get 66 at the end. So that's a lot. So you need to do some pre-choices. And we had 106 images, so we could not multiply that by 66. That would have been totally crazy. So we had to choose a few of these images. And so my collaborator really thought that it would be a good opportunity to make this as explicit as possible, the reasons of his selection. So you will have more details. The website of the Basel Papyrus collection is really about to be launched. I was hoping that it would be on for today, but we're in it's coming in this next weeks. And it will be the first online catalog of papyri, at least that I'm aware of, to provide not only a color image of the papyri, but also infrared and enhanced version. And we even have an enhanced infrared version. And not to forget the materials that allowed to analyze the type of ink present on each papyrus. So that's really a concrete case study. And for the choices that led to the selection of some methods, there is a tab on this on the Hierax website under best method and case study. You can find this tab. This is only an extract of it, where you see the different methods and the different parameters and a color code to say, okay, what is the best method for each task. And, so once you have done this challenging choice of method and you have selected all the parameters, you can push this yellow button and choose an image to enhance. So for the example, I open a folder called Hierax presentation, and I select an image from the Basel collection, a papyrus that was edited by my colleague Sabine Hübner, and I chose it because it's one of the famous ones in our collection. It is the most ancient Christian letter we know so far. I took a full image, but depending on the computer that is used and on the task, it may be wise if you're really looking to read a difficult part of the papyrus to crop the area before and to enhance only that part. The idea is the heaviest the image, the longer it will take to enhance. So the machine tells you that it is working. how to be patient. And so on my example, I have kept the default settings. So I have 16 images, the original, then the 5 methods that I have selected. And for each of these 5, the negative and the blue negative. If I had chosen only one method and keep the negative and blue negative, then I would have the original, the enhanced negative and blue negative. At the opposite, if I choose 3 methods and no post-processing, I will have the original and the 3 methods. To make things easier, when you hover with the mouse on the image, you have the name of each small image. So you can see, okay, this one I'm not interested, it's ugly. This one, it looks promising. And you know already which worked well or not on your computer. So at this stage, all the images that have been created, you can find them in the very folder where you took the image. There's now a new folder called Enhanced. And when you open this folder, you can manipulate all the images like any folder of images. So you can remove some, delete, and you can open them in another viewer if for some reason you don't want to use the Hierax viewer. So this is really the first part, the enhancement part. So once the enhancement is done and you are on the overview tab, you can save the overview. And here you will have the overview that appear in this same folder of enhanced images. And it should be a better quality than a simple screenshot for a presentation, for example. An option that is here, view images, it is made to upload already existing images. So let's say you have enhanced all these images and now it's the end of the day and you come back the following day, you push this button, view images, and you can upload again the images that you had to be able to use the viewer on these images. But note that if you still want at that stage to have the original image, you will need to copy paste it in the enhancement folder because you can only select images from one folder. So here, for example, let's select these 5 images. We have them again in the viewer, like when we did the enhancement. And now I can click on one of them, and that's the detail part of the viewer that opens. So once you're in the detail part, you can compare 2 images side by side. You can choose what image you want among the images that you have selected before. On the left and on the right, thanks to the menus. You can zoom, so you click on zoom and then you zoom into the image. And once you zoom here, it automatically align the other image. And that was a point that was really time saving when we were comparing passages on an image. So if you click on pan, you will be able to drag the image in this window, so to see another part. If you click on rotate and use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you will be able to rotate a little bit on to turn it clockwise or counterclockwise. This is especially useful when you have a text that is written in a different orientation, like an endorsement. Sometimes on Papyri, you can have texts that are 90 degrees from one to the other. So with the rotate, you can see properly this. And you can reset if for any reason the manipulation you have done don't make you happy. you can go back and have the images without zoom, without palm, without rotation. And then with previous and next, using the keys, also the arrow keys, you can change the images without using the menu. So for example, on the image on the left, if you push the horizontal left and right keys, so the arrows left and right, you will move this one down the list. So you will have the second one, the third one. And for this one, it is when you use the up and down keys. So the arrow that goes up will go up the list. The arrow that goes down will go down. So this is really when you want to visualize quickly two images to compare what will be the most efficient. The same idea is with these buttons. So if you click on this button, for example, you're on the top of the list, you have 15 images, and you click down, 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 and the images will move without you having to click into the menu to choose which one you want to see. This is just an option for comfort. You also can hover with the mouse on the buttons, and you will find the shortcuts. So I would like to say a few words of conclusion. So I hope that I have shown you that Hierax is really a small project. It's almost find by chance. But we decided to give a try on this topic and to see how we can share with others what we have developed for a specific project. I have often talked with other programmers and other projects, and people have the codes running on their computers, but it is not possible to share the code. For example, in the best cases, you can send the image and they send you the transformed image. So I was really looking forward finding a way to share it to other users. I also wanted to investigate how to document at various levels this tool. So of course, a specialized article in a high-ranking journal is fine, but also for non-specialists, it is important to put material on the website. And we also have a video. If you go on the described website, there's an event that was held in Basel in January 2020, and there are the videos. And there my colleague Vlad Atanasiu gives a talk on what is color. So for the archive community and the imaging community, you may be the ones that know the best what is color in a digital image. But for papyrologists and even for computer scientists, it was not that obvious what we meant when we were talking about colors in a digital image. And so the talk was very interesting for that on a different level of specialization. With Hierax, we also accepted limitation that we are not software engineers. Producing a software was not the goal of Describe, so it's really a side activity. So we have to accept also that there are limits. And the solution that we have found is really to be able to divide the enhancement part and the viewer part. And the idea is that we hope that the viewer will work for most of the users, but we cannot guarantee with any kind of computer, any kind of program and systems that it will work. But at least the enhancement should work for everybody and be useful. Last, the idea is really to encourage other projects to spend a little time now to deliver such a Lego bricks that can benefit the others, so that we don't lose time repeating what has already been done, but we can really benefit from the improvement of the various research projects. And a last word is really to encourage collaborations. So if some of you or colleagues that you know are specifically interested in digital paleography, so the analysis of handwritings, of ancient manuscripts, it would, yes, it would be very nice if they want to subscribe to Describe's mailing list, and so that we can strengthen the community around these topics. And we can also benefit because some approaches are really useful beyond individuals' specificities. But sometimes the contacts are not easy to do across the disciplines. So this is one of the goals, and that was also the reason why I was very happy to be invited to talk with you today. And I hope that you found the presentation interesting, and I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you.